everyone, welcome back to my channel and my craft table. If you're new here, my name is Jen. I'm really glad to meet you. Today I'm excited. This is a secret stash collaboration. I partnered with Rachel of Daily Creations, and I will be linking her video and channel down in my description, as well as all of the supplies and materials. Recently, we were chatting about all of the craft supplies that we purchased through the Concord and Ninth warehouse sale. When I shared my stash with Rachel, she chose a product for me to create with. Then when she shared her stash with me, I chose a product for her to create with. And then we are exchanging those cards. Well, today I'm excited because I received her card in the mail. Note, this is not how she sent this. This is a little worse for wear. This has had to travel a very long way. Let's go ahead and open it and see what we have. This is fun. So this is a stencil set that I chose out of Rachel's stash, and it is just this beautiful graphic design. I absolutely loved it. So I challenged her to create a beautiful card with that, and I love this sentiment. First of all, the color scheme is beautiful. It just makes me think of summer. Really love how she coordinated her favorite colors in this color scheme as well. So that is pretty awesome. There is a sweet little note for me inside, so I will be keeping that to myself. Let's go ahead and find out what she chose for me to create out of my stash, and let's get crafting. Rachel chose the Dahlia Turnabout stamp set. I was so excited when she chose it. A turnabout stamp is where you can stamp and then turn your paper, stamp again, turn and stamp a fourth time. And depending on how many times you turn and stamp, this is the effect you get. So you can just do it one time all the way up to 4 times. And I just think they're super, super cool. Now this is a smaller turnabout stamp set. So this is the Dahlia right here, and I'll explain how this works in a moment. And then we've got all of these little sentiments. And then this is a fun little element. This is the Dahlia Turnabout die. Now this die can take the place of one of the rotations. So instead of doing 4 turns and stamping 4 times, you can use this to, you can die cut. Actually, you could die cut out all of the turns if you wanted to. So just a really fun way to change things up. So I think that's pretty genius. All right, so we're going to be using the Dahlia Turnabout stamp and die set. I also pulled from the same haul. This is called the Lots to Say stamp set. And then I'm going to be using one of these for the inside of the card. These are going to be the outside sentiments, and I'm extremely excited about this. This is the Love Lines die, but what I'm most excited about it is this one right here. So I have been wanting a banner die for I don't know how long, and this die set came with these two. So I'm going to use this one here. I'm just going to set it there on my Spellbinders magnet. We're going to use that for the front as well. Those are the two that I played around with. This is the one that we're going to do today and send to Rachel. So I'm just going to kind of set these off to the side. I do have some cardstock and ink colors. This is 110-pound cardstock. This will be the card base. I've got this dark blue here. I've got a white, I believe this is 65-pound or 80-pound. This will be for the card panel. And then I have this holographic panel. Now this actually came out of the Cricut Joy foil transfer insert card pack, which I'm going to be doing a video on very soon. But I thought I would incorporate one of these panels today because I thought it would be a little surprise element. I'm going to be using Concord and Ninth. I have Midnight Powder, Ballet Slipper, and Sweet Pea. Then of course I have my Versamart and my embossing powder and scissors and glue, and I have all the things. Okay, so the first thing that I want to do is I want to cut down some of my panel. This is what we're going to be stamping on. I'm going to do 4 1/4, and then I'm going to do 5 1/2. And this is a regular size card panel. Okay, so next I'm going to bring in my large MISTI. Now you don't need the large MISTI. You can use the small one and the small turnabout jig. You can actually make your own jig for the mini MISTI. That would be a 5 3/8 by 5 3/8 piece of paper that you would fit here. And I will probably do a demonstration on that another day. But I'm going to go ahead and work with this MISTI here. So this is the large MISTI, and I keep a turnabout jig that fits in the large MISTI here in the bottom. And this is like a little, almost like a little sticky mat. And I'm going to put it right here in this corner. When I pull out the stamp, there is an alignment guide. Let me put it under here. So this alignment guide shows you the center of rotation in the middle of that X, this side up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay the alignment guide down on top of this jig. The little acetate sheet is still covering it. And then I'm going to go ahead and grab my stamp. I had already done this when I was playing around with it already. In fact, let me zoom in for you. Okay, so I had aligned this stamp with the alignment guide in the jig, and then I got a pen and I just marked that X on the back, and you can do that or you cannot do that. I'm going to pretend it's not there so I can demonstrate what I do. I'm going to make sure this is lined up. I'm going to make sure that this image covers all of these little flower petals on the alignment guide. And then I'm going to make extra sure that it is centered correctly. So this is centered correctly. I will close my MISTI and that will pick this stamp up. So just like that, there it is. And then I can pull off the alignment guide. Let me zoom back out a little. I think I went a little too far. And then this is going to be ready to go. If it's the first time using the stamp, make sure that you go over it with your fingers to remove the manufacturer coating until the stamp turns cloudy, or you can use an eraser. Okay, so this turnabout jig, okay, right here, I'm going to pull off the protective sheet, and then in the middle of the jig, I've got a rectangle here and one that's horizontal, and these are the lines that will help us line up our panel for an A2 card. So when I go to close this and stamp down, this will now stamp exactly in the middle of that panel. And then you can see, by the way, this says 1 right here in the corner. And what that means is this is going to be my first pass. I'm going to start with ballet slipper. Ballet slipper is rather light. I will probably have to stamp this 2, maybe 3 times. Okay, so I'm going to press that down. Okay, and then see how white that is? That's ballet slipper. But I'm going to go ahead and stamp it another time. Okay, and then we're going to press this down. Okay, and then see how white that is? That's beautiful. And I'm gonna call that good. I'm gonna cap the ballet slipper, move it off to the side. Now because that's pink and then this is pink, I'm not gonna clean off the stamp like I normally would. So I'm gonna take the magnet out, I'm gonna pick this whole thing up, and I'm gonna turn it so now that my 2 is in the corner. Okay, and I'm gonna put that down right there, make sure it's snug in that corner. Then I'm gonna take my sweet pea and I'm gonna stamp this up, okay? And then I'm going to, again, close the door and press this down. Give that ink time to transfer. Okay, open the door, and then this is the effect that you get. Now, if you let your eyes relax and you just kind of look at that, just kind of stare off into space, almost looks like fireworks. I think that would be a really fun card. I'm gonna go ahead and stamp this one more time. Press that down, smooth it out, pick it up, there we go. Now, at this point, I'm gonna be changing color. I have just a stamp cleaner that I had bought at Hobby Lobby quite a while ago. You can always use a baby wipe. This is water-based. Please don't use isopropyl alcohol on your stamps. My next move would be to pick the whole thing up, turn this again 90 degrees so that the 3 is on top. However, I want to not do a 3rd one in that spot. I want to go to the 4th one. So I'm going to rotate it to number 4. I'm going to use the midnight. Okay, so again, this is in position 4. So position 3 is the surprise element. And I think I'm going to do that one more time. Okay, and I think that blue needs a little bit more. Let's go ahead and hit that one more time. Okay, that looks great. So I'm gonna go ahead and cap the midnight. I do need to clean the stamp one more time. I'm gonna go ahead and before I pick that up, I'm going to use it to help me align. So this was number 1, that was ballet slipper. Number 2 was sweet pea. Number 3 is gonna be our die. So I'm going to turn this to number 3. I am going to grab the die. I'm going to place the die on the stamp. I'm going to grab this little tool here, and I didn't push it very hard. I just enough to get it to stick. And I'm going to put this in its spot, and then I'm going to grab the die. And voila. So this is going to be where my petals go. So before this gets away from me, I'm going to put a little bit of washi tape there. And I think I'll put a little bit of washi tape there. I'm going to pull this up. And so this can now come off. Just like vinyl, I'm going to pull this away. I don't think I did a good job cleaning that last time. Let me clean this really fast. Apparently I did not do a good enough job last time. I can clean this with water or an alcohol-free baby wipe and let it dry, and then it will be sticky just like your Cricut mat. Next, I'm going to bring in my Platinum 6 and I'm going to die cut this dahlia. So then I can pull this up and you can see all of the little petals that got die cut are left behind. And I'm going to pull up this washi tape very, very carefully because I don't want to rip my paper. And even though washi is super low tack, every once in a while it gets a wild hair. Okay, so then this die is ready to just go back where it needs to go. All right, so something that I didn't notice until I was about ready to work on this is right here, it almost looks like there is a super fine mist of blue, and I'm not real sure what I did to make that happen. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to add to that. So that was unintentional fake splatter from I don't know where. I'm going to take each one of these and I'm going to go ahead, put some ink down on my little mat, and we're just going to use a little water brush to get some water down. We're going to use it for splatter. Okay, I'm just going to take a small brush, that around, and then flick it on the paper. And we're going to do all 4 colors. We're going to call that good. All right, so I'm just going to let this kind of sit over there and hang out. So we are going to go ahead and get our sentiment ready. So for our sentiment, now this one, I really just need the mini Misty. Lay that down. And we're going to do Hello Friend. We're going to get these lined up to the best of my ability. Let's see. Okay, those look even and they look like they're on the same row. I'm gonna go ahead and powder up my little paper. All right, next I'm gonna take my Versamark and we're gonna ink up the stamp, get this nice and inky. And then on sentiments, especially just words, I just like to do a light press because I don't want the letters to like go everywhere. They kind of smush out. I'm just gonna do this again. Okay, and then we're going to do it one last time. That should be more than enough. Okay, all right, we can take that out. We can close that up. Just going to wipe that down, and I'm going to just leave the Hello Friend here in the corner of my glass mat and move the Misty out of the way. Okay, this weird contraption, I actually just found this at Michael's. It's called a glitter tray. But I wanted to do some mixed media backgrounds and I thought, oh, how fun. You know, it's like a little, cookie, baking rack inside this little tray, and the tray has its built-in funnel. So I thought, oh, how fun. So then when I do my heat embossing, normally I just get a piece of copy paper and I put it down. And this is normally totally fine, but what I find sometimes is I get a little messy and I get the embossing powder all over my mat. So I thought that this would be a good way to catch any residual flakes of embossing powder. All right, so I'm gonna open this, and this is by Ranger. I got it at Hobby Lobby. It's just a white embossing powder, and it's a super fine. Okay, and I'm just gonna let that sit there for just a minute, and then we're gonna get that back in there, and then we're gonna do it again. Okay, so that is gonna sit out to the side, and then all this extra embossing powder, I'm just gonna get that funneled back in here, and then I can put the lid on and put this off to the side. Okay, next I have my heat tool. I am actually going to let my heat tool heat up for about a minute, and then I will go in and do the heat embossing. Before I do, I have a few little flecks. I'm just gonna pull them off with a little cosmetic brush. So I'm gonna let this run for about 30 seconds to 1 minute, and then I will do the heat embossing. Okay, that is our heat embossed sentiment. I'm gonna just go over this with my little towel, and then your fingers are oily. So to make the paper really go back to its original state, I'm just gonna run my fingers over this just like that. And then we're going to get our die cut machine back out, and we're gonna cut that out. Okay, so our die cutting is done, and pick this up and pull this out very carefully. And then here is our little sentiment banner. It says, "Hello, friend." Okay, so now we're to the point where we can start putting everything together. Okay, so I'm gonna bring in my little scoreboard because I want to actually re-score this. I feel like it's just slightly off. So I want to make sure that this is scored at 5.5. Okay, and then we're gonna get that repressed. Perfect. All right, so this is the card base, and I like to build my cards from the base up. So the first thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to grab a Made with Love stamp and one of my logo stickers. For about a year, I've been putting them in the middle, but lately I've been putting them here on the side, just like that. And then this little stamp, this was a gift with purchase from Lynn. So I'm going to be placing that stamp just like that. Okay, and I'm gonna take my card base, open it up, put it here in the corner, put the magnet down, put this where it goes, close the door, lift it up, and make sure that the paper is back in the corner. And then I'm gonna just go down with the midnight all the way down. All right, that says Made with Love. Great. I'm gonna turn this over. This is the inside of the card. I'm going to remove this stamp. So this is the Lots to Say stamp set, and I'm going to go with I Think You're Wonderful. Going to just position that right up here. I'm gonna bring this down, and then here on the middle, or the inside, I'm gonna use the Sweet Pea. And I'm just gonna give that a light press. Give that time to transfer. And I will do that one more time. Okay, I think that's wonderful. Our card base is finished. Clean off my stamp super fast. Let this sit over there. Then I can remove the MISTI. We have our card base, this blue, this holographic, and then we're going to put this on there. Let's go ahead and cut down our blue panel. I'm gonna bring in my paper trimmer. Okay, so the card base is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So I want, let's do 5 1/4 by 4. Okay, and let's see what that looks like. That's gonna give us a nice margin around. Perfect, I like it. This one is gonna have to be 3 3 3/4. So I'm actually gonna take an 1/8 of an inch all the way around. And that way everything's even. And I need this to be 5. So I'm gonna take a 1/4 inch off the top and the bottom. Okay, so this should be 4¼ by 5½, 4 by 5¼ 3 3/4 by 5. They just go down by about 1/8 of an inch each. And then this one here has to be smaller than the 3 3/4 by 5. So I'm going to go to 3 3/4, but then I'm going to take off about 1/8 of that. We're going to go to 5, and then we're going to go 1/8 off of that. And let's make sure that when we put this down, it is smaller. Perfect. Look at that. So that's smaller than my panel there. And then these are still super fun. I can still use those on another project. So next, we're going to get all of this put together. I'm going to try and use up my smaller glues here. Okay, I'm going to bring in my scoreboard, and I'm going to put this in the corner, and I'm going to use this. Just kind of want that in a place. Actually, I lied. This is going to go in the corner, and then I'm just going to get this as even as I can. Okay, just a nice way to hold that. Okay. And then here is our panel so far. And see how that picks up all of that blue and pink and the light? It's so pretty. And then I'm going to do the same with this layer. I think I need a little more right there. Get this lined up. All right, and then I'm going to just take my brayer and I'm just going to really adhere that down. Okay, now we're going to do a little bit of dimension, but we're going to do it on the back of this blue panel. So this is a piece of craft foam, it's like what I have here, and I usually take my craft foam and I cover both sides with this double-sided adhesive. So I've got one here, and now both sides, you know, this is adhesive that is not yet exposed. I need to bring this down. I'm going to go ahead and so if that's 4, we need to come in 8, and then 5 1/4, but then we're going to come in 1/8 off of that one. Perfect. Now these can be used behind sentiment strips. And then this just goes on really easy. And then this side comes off really easy. Now I want this to line up really nice. So my magnets here, and I'm going to use those to keep that in place while I get this. In fact, I want it like that. Perfect. That is amazing. Exactly what I want. Okay. So back, done. Inside is done. All of the layers are done. That looks really good. Now all we have to do is put our sentiment on. I need a skinnier one. Okay, look at that. We're gonna go with that. So I'm gonna grab my scissors, come in and just snip, and then we're just gonna place this foam strip right behind here. Pull off the other backer, grab our tweezers so we can keep our fingers out of the way. And then I'm gonna put this right here in the middle. Okay, just like that. All right, this is looking great. Now the last thing is to do these sentiments, or the last thing is to do these little embellishments. Okay, so I'm gonna pour a few of these out, and we're gonna get these on here. Let's see, we don't need a whole lot, but I think I'm gonna do about 3 down here, and then I'll do 3 up there. I think that looks great. Okay, and then these sequins, they have it's almost like a super shallow plate. So it has a flat side and then like a little, you know, almost like a little cup side. And so I always like to say the cup is upward and the flat side is toward the paper, that way. Okay, and then these. Now this glue will dry clear, and then these will be super sparkly. All right. Okay, well, this is the finished card project for today. This turned out really, really well, and I'm so excited for her to receive this in the mail. Just a little recap. This is three turns, and then one of the turns is actually the die cut with the coordinating die. Our banner sentiment is in the middle. We've got a little bit of splatter. We've got some iridescent sequin on there. This is just fantastic. I love how this turned out. Off camera, I had played around with these just to kind of get a feel for how they work. So this is centered in the middle of the panel. This is off-centered. I stamped it off-centered. I just stamped it all four turns, and then I used a circle die to cut it out and placed it on a 4x4 panel. This is just another way that you can use your turnabout stamps and stencils, is that you can offset them. They don't have to be exactly in the middle. And here is just a little bit of black sparkle heat embossing, so super pretty. This one was all four turns. I did stamp all four turns, and then at the very end I decided to try out the die cut. So the die cut pieces were, they had been stamped with ink, so I just used them as embellishments on the card, and then I have the Hello Friend here at the bottom instead of in the middle. These are super fantastic. I'm really excited about the Secret Stash collaboration. I think it was really fun and creative. I really have enjoyed getting to know Rachel without really talking to each other. I think our card colors coordinate nicely. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Make sure that you jump over to Rachel's channel and check out her video in the card making process for this one. This was just super fun. Well, until I see you in the next card or craft, as always, have an amazing day and happy crafting.
Thank you all so much for watching today. I'm so glad that you can join me at my craft table. If you're not already, I'd love to have you as a subscriber, and don't forget to hit that notification bell. That way you'll know when new videos arrive. Have a great day, and as always, happy crafting.